Now, a U.S. appeals court unanimously rejected a claim from former President Donald Trump that he is immune from prosecution. The move essentially means he can now face trial on charges he plotted to overturn the results of the 2020 election. All eyes will now be on the Supreme Court, who could determine if former President Trump stands trial in Washington ahead of the elections in November. We can now bring in our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Doug.
Hello, Delano.
The court unanimously made this decision. What did they say exactly?
Well, first of all, the decision itself, no matter of the fact that Trump's lawyers plan to appeal, no matter how they try to spin this decision, it will potentially severely hamstring Donald Trump's central strategy, which is to delay any trial, having to get to court on any trial, delay it, potentially until beyond the goalposts in November. When he'd be elected, and presumably when he has control of the Justice Department, he would be able to essentially order the Justice Department to drop all cases against him and perhaps even pardon himself. So that's the goal. Get these cases, delay the legal jeopardy as long as possible, get it past the election. That said, this ruling by a three-judge panel, so a smaller panel of the broader Circuit Court of Appeals in Washington, it issued a sweeping, categorical, unprecedented, in a sense, rejection of every single plank in the argument put forth by Trump's legal team that allowing a former president to be criminally charged would essentially chill the actions of future presidents. They said, essentially, hogwash to that. They also rejected the argument that because he was acquitted after his impeachment by the Senate, that he should not be liable for being held criminally accountable as a former president afterwards. And they invoked other past presidents. They invoked Gerald Ford, who essentially pardons Richard Nixon, who resigned under duress. Also, Bill Clinton was under investigation by an independent prosecutor, and he basically brokered a deal. He paid a fine, and he agreed to a temporary suspension of his law license. They basically said that all the arguments were hogwash. I just want to bring up very quickly, though, because this is the central plank. They basically said that Donald Trump's stance, his argument, would collapse the systems of separated powers by placing the president beyond the reach of all three branches of the U.S. government. And you could see what they said, that we cannot accept, can we bring that up full screen? It is on full screen. We cannot accept former President Trump's claim that a president has unbounded authority to commit crimes that would neutralize the most fundamental check on executive power. Nor can we sanction his apparent contention that the executive, that is the president, has carte blanche to violate the rights of individual citizens to vote and have their votes count. What they're referring to in that last part, Delano, is the fact that Trump, one of the charges was that he obstructed the right to vote by trying to stop the certification and accounting of votes and ordering, basically, his followers to march to the Capitol as they see it.
Doug, very, very briefly, what comes next?
What comes next is they plan to appeal. When and where isn't clear at the moment. Most likely the Supreme Court. This Court of Appeals gave them a very short deadline to do that. By next Monday, the Supreme Court could decline the case. If it does that, with its 6-3 conservative majority, if it does that, it would go right back to the federal district court. A new trial date would be set because the March 4th date had been postponed. It was going to start in about a month. It would be set maybe for early May. We don't know. If the Supreme Court decides to take the case, opens up a whole nother jumble of questions. It would have to schedule arguments. It would have to eventually issue a decision. That could potentially delay, and play into Trump's strategy. In that case, we might not see a trial until after the election, potentially.
If we do it all. Thank you very much.